What is going on, my friends? Hank here from Sprues and Brews Scale Modeling. And in today's tutorial, we're going to be focusing on what I think is the single easiest way to take your scale model armor builds to the next level. And that is by adding realistic stowage to your vehicle. Now, if you look at videos or reference imagery of tanks from the Second World War, you'll see they're always slung with all sorts of packs and bags and gear and equipment. And that's because these crews had to transport all of their supplies and personal effects with them as they were rapidly moving around the front lines. So adding some realistic stowage like this is the best and easiest way to make your model look like the real deal. Alright, we're gonna hop right into it. As we're working here, be sure to reference the video description for links to all the products we're using today. And while you're down there, please hit that subscribe button to make sure that you'll be getting recommendations for more great scale modeling content. Alrighty, let's get to work.
Okay friends, I'll be demonstrating our painting techniques today on this Tamiya T26E3 Pershing, but these skills can be used on any armor kit of any nation really. You'll see that I've got my stowage attached to the vehicle already so we can focus on painting today, but I'll add a link here to my build video for this M18 Hellcat to show you how to mount these pieces in place if you'd like to pause and check that out first. This is also a nice example of what our finished product is going to look like. I'm using some resin stowage from Value Gear. Steve makes some really great stuff and it's not too expensive at all. Couldn't more highly recommend trying out some of it on your next build. First things first, I'm going to pop the turret off here. We're going to start working on that. And a quick overview of our supplies today. I'll be using acrylic paints, mostly from Vallejo and Ammo MIG. I've got a water cup for cleaning my brush in between colors. And I've got my wet palette from Frontier Wargaming. A lot of folks make these, and you can make your own little DIY one at home, but it's basically just a wet sponge and some parchment paper, and it's really handy to keep your paints moist and help extend working time. I also have my assortment of brushes. I'll be using these e-boot brushes that I picked up on Amazon. I really love these things. They come in a nice cheap set, and I've been using them for years. To start painting, I'm going to break out some flat black, shake it up, and get a little bit of that on my wet palette. Which brings me to my first Sprues and Brews stowage painting tip. Always start from the inside and work out. You can see here that I'm starting with these extra tracks because they're the closest to the actual body of the tank and they have additional stowage, additional layers, on top of them. By working from the inside out, you can reduce the amount of cleanup that you're going to need to do later, because the last thing you want is to paint up a pack or a bedroll all nice and then make a mess of it while you're trying to paint in some tiny nooks and crannies behind it later. Also worth noting, you're going to want to do any major painting of the vehicle itself before you start working on stowage. I always attach my stowage, prime the whole vehicle, and then do my main camo colors before moving on to the little detail work and the stowage. So you can see here that we've got our deepest layer done, the black of these tracks and the jack here, so now we can move on. Next I'm going to grab some khaki and paint up this haversack, being careful not to get any paint on the deep layers we just painted. You can already see how these little bits of stowage provide some nice interest and contrast from the main color of the vehicle. With that pack done, I'm going to move on to one of these bedrolls. I've picked some tan earth for this. Which leads me to my second Sprues and Brews stowage painting tip. Stick to neutral earth tones. It doesn't matter as much which exact paints you use for stowage, but it's important to stick to this basic color palette. All this gear in the 40s would have been made mostly of natural materials, wool, canvas, etc., so you're going to get a lot of browns and greens. As long as you stay in this wheelhouse, your stowage paintwork is going to look very convincing. So for this next bedroll, I'm going to stick with the browns and go a little darker. We'll paint this one up using some beige brown. And you can see these three colors, the khaki, tan earth, and beige brown, all sit very nicely next to each other and next to the olive drab of our tank. Now, once we have our major stowage components completed, we're going to do a little detail painting and color in the tie-down straps that are holding these bits to the vehicle. My signature for straps is to use this lovely red leather. I think it looks great for tie-downs and really catches the attention without being too stark. Now, the final touch for this section of stowage is the buckles on the tie-downs and the haversack. I hit these with a little bit of white aluminum to help pop those tiny details in the sculpt. And there's our basic paint job on the first section of stowage. Pretty simple, right? But we're not totally done yet, so stick around. We're going to do this next section with the same techniques. I'm starting here with this jerry can because it's tucked behind this tarp. That's going to be a nice olive drab. Then I've grabbed some Luftwaffe dark camo green for this big tarp. Again, the specific colors don't matter as much as sticking to a palette of earth tones. We've got our beige brown going down again for this bedroll. And we've got our khaki for these haversacks. This M1 helmet also gets the olive drab we just used on our jerry can. And finally, we just need to hit our straps and buckles the same way as before. Once you get the hang of it, painting stowage is really easy. It's a nice, slow, relaxing process, but it's totally worth it in the end. Now I've gone ahead here and painted up all of the stowage on our T26. It's looking pretty good. But the next crucial step to bring it all together is weathering. We're going to cover weathering in the next video, so be sure to subscribe right here to Sprues and Brews Scale Modeling and stay tuned for that. You can check out these other scale modeling tutorials in the meantime, and until next time, my friends, be well, happy building, cheers.